I grew up going to McDonald's all the time. After school was like my go-to fast food joint. Filet-O-Fish will always be a part of my order at McDonald's when I go these days. Which is why I wanted to make the Bonnie's version of it here today. Get the squishy, nice bun, little half slice of cheese on the bottom hanging off, the fried fish, and the tartar sauce kind of just oozing down the side like that. Yeah, this always hits. So our goal today is to basically take every component of the sandwich and kind of turn it into our own version of it here. This is a Cantonese American restaurant. The flavors and ingredients always have to taste Cantonese first. We're gonna make this fit our style of cooking. There's kind of three main components here: the bun, the patty, and the sauce. And we're gonna start with our patty first. Before I start working on my patty, I'm gonna take a look at the McDonald's one first, just to see what we're working with. I'm unfamiliar with any square or rectangular fish. You would think that it would be like an emulsified paste, kind of like a McDonald's McNugget or something like that, but it's not. This is clearly just like skinless, boneless fillets that they take, press into a nice rectangular mold like you would a terrine or something, freeze that, and then slice planks off of it, probably with like a bandsaw or something. The flakiness is great, but that's probably not what I'm gonna go for. But I do like a Cantonese fish cake, which is more about like an emulsified paste, and to give you that like chewy, bouncy, springy texture. We're trying to turn this into a fish cake because there's nothing more Cantonese to me than like a fish cake. Like all the flavor from this is really just coming from the tartar sauce. Like I don't even taste seasoning in the breading. The fish is so mild. I want to be able to pack in a lot of flavor inside the patty and make it, the whole thing actually taste like Cantonese. So the first thing we're gonna do for our patty is start with our fish and our shrimp. I have about 2 pounds of cod here. It's mild, it's neutral in flavor. McDonald's uses pollock now. They moved away from using cod. It's very similar in taste and texture. Like the way they prepare it, you wouldn't even notice. We're only gonna need 1 pound for this recipe to make about 10 patties. I'm gonna use the tail end just because it's kind of like the more uneven, less desirable side anyway, and we'll save the larger whole sides for steaming or for cooking. All right, then I'm just gonna cut this up into a couple more manageable sized pieces, and then we're just gonna throw it all into the RoboCoupe or food processor, just to turn this into a really nice paste. So the idea here is you really wanna just break down these proteins and these fibers as much as possible. Like typically when you're working with proteins, you don't wanna overwork it, but for fish paste specifically, you wanna really break it down to make that like super tacky like that, and kind of like fibrous. And that's what's going to help you bind the whole thing together later and give you that nice bouncy texture that we're looking for. So we have this clean, deveined, peeled shrimp here, about 12 ounces of it, that we're gonna treat the same way as the fish. We wanna turn that into a nice paste as well. McDonald's Filet-O-Fish doesn't have shrimp, but I love the texture that shrimp adds to it. It gives you a really nice springy texture that we're looking for, and also gives it a nice sweetness. I'm going to season this paste very simply. So we'll start with the garlic chives. It's a little different from regular chives. Regular Western chives are more of an like sweet, oniony flavor. These are also used in a lot of Cantonese cooking. It's a like very important flavor profile in like dumpling mixtures, and also in like stir fries. Next, we'll add a little bit of ginger. When ginger's cooked, it definitely helps remove some of that seafood fishiness. So we always add it to all our fish or seafood in Cantonese cooking. So throw that right in. Next, we have just a little bit of cornstarch that we'll add. It'll help with the texture, also help bind. Go in with a little bit of lard for that fat and texture as well. We don't want this to be like a crumbly, fall apart fish cake. We want it to have a nice texture that like is bound together very well with each bite. Just a little salt, just a little bit of sugar to balance it out, and some MSG as well. Salt, sugar, MSG is kind of like the Chinese trinity of seasoning. It really balances out a lot of the food and a lot of the dishes that you're making. So MSG is gonna add a lot of savoriness, a lot of umami. It's kind of like that flavor that makes you want more of something. It's like that meaty flavor. Freshly ground white pepper. It's very floral. It's a fermented pepper. Sesame oil is also another like crucial flavor profile of Cantonese food. Mix this up super well into a really nice paste. Fish isn't gonna be the dominant flavor or aroma in this because again, we're using cod that's so neutral anyway. And then all the seasonings that we added to it are really the ones that are gonna stand out. Like the fish and the shrimp, for this, you're really just using that for the texture. You wanna overwork this to really work those proteins, break them down, and give it that like springy texture. Like this is what like Asian moms and grandmas would do at home. Just, it's called like dot, which is just like slapping it back into the bowl constantly. So we have our paste. This is just gonna be the foundation of our patty. We just essentially have to get it frozen into a flat, even layer. Because right now, as you can see, it's very, very tacky, which is great, but then very hard to work with if we're trying to bread it like a real Filet-O-Fish. These are just gonna go into the freezer for a little while so they can set before we get to bread them. And then while that's setting in the freezer, we'll work on the sauce. Before we make our sauce, we have to examine the McDonald's tartar sauce. Yeah, it's delicious. It's like a classic tartar. Tartar is typically just mayo and like chopped pickles, and this has a lot of it. So it's very briny, very tangy, very zippy. When you eat fried food, you kind of just want a nice creamy sauce that like clings to it really well, and it needs to have acid, otherwise you're not gonna be able to cut through any of that fried fat. Yeah, on the McDonald's Filet-O-Fish, this is pretty much all you taste, which is why it's great. I'm gonna be making a tartar sauce that's gonna pair well with the style of fish cake that we're gonna be making today. So we're gonna make sure that the ginger's in there and then the Cantonese flavor profiles are also in there, but still adding that acid that it desperately needs on this sandwich. So first we're gonna start making our ginger scallion sauce. And that's just like a classic Cantonese condiment that's typically used and served in a lot of Cantonese roast meat shops. You would eat it with like soy sauce chicken or scallion chicken or things like that. This will kind of be like the base and flavor profile of our tartar sauce. Scallions. Just a thin slice on the scallions. You just want to use the whites and the green parts as well. All right, next we have peeled and coined ginger that we're gonna add just to the RoboCoupe just to blitz this up as well. We can add all this right to the bowl. Peeled garlic as well that we're gonna blitz up. I always say Cantonese food is always very low on acid and low on heat. And I think this is like a great opportunity to kind of add a little bit of that. So we're just gonna add a little bit of some long green chilies. And then we have some pickled mustard greens as well. That's gonna add a ton of acid. Mustard greens are like a leafy vegetable. It's used in a lot of Chinese soups. Yeah, so pickled mustard greens are very briny, very sour, a little salty. It'll add a lot of like complexity to this sauce. So this is like perfect for the tartar sauce as well, just because this is pickled and the McDonald's tartar sauce has so many pickles in it. I think it would be a really nice bite. We're gonna add this, stir it in once our sauce cools. So right now we have ginger, garlic, scallion, and the chilies. We're gonna season it with just a little salt, sugar, MSG again, just to really draw out some of that moisture and kind of like gently cure it for a little bit before we hit it with the hot oil. So I'm just gonna heat up a quarter neutral oil, about 400-ish degrees, a little bit before the smoking point. The oil needs to be hot because we're gonna dump it over these aromatics and really just like allow it to like sizzle and bubble up and cook very rapidly. It like gently cooks it without having to cook this over the stove and let that confit. But this is like a much easier, faster way to do like a large batch of it. I'm just gonna wait till this cools down, and then we're gonna fold in these pickled mustard greens as well right into it. Now that our ginger scallion is complete and the pickled mustard greens are folded in and cooled off, we can make our tartar sauce. So all tartar is going to start with a mayo base. And then for the ginger scallion, I'm actually gonna strain off the oil because we don't want this to be too loose, but we just want all that flavor. I do want to add more pickles because I really like the McDonald's one with all that acidity and that texture. You still want to have kind of like those crunchy bites that I think are super fun, little pops of acidity. I think this is a great way to add a lot of that, those citrusy, floral notes that lemon contains without having to worry about thinning out too much. I also personally love the flavor of cilantro. It'll add like a nice, beautiful color as well. Little bright pops of green. Of course, I have to season it as well. Just a little salt, MSG, just to taste. Yeah, I think it's perfect. Cilantro adds a lot of like herbaceousness, a lot of flavor, the zest and the juice add a ton, but you really do taste that pickled mustard green. It like really comes through, adds a lot of acidity, adds a lot of like crunchy bite from all the pickles as well. Just the brightness of this is gonna work really well with the fried sandwich. Before we fry this and put this together, I just want to take a second to just check out the bun and check out the cheese on the McDonald's Filet-O-Fish real quick. The bun is like a regular baked bun, but I did read somewhere that the McDonald's bun is steamed. So that's why it is like so pillowy and soft, which is nice. The cheese is on the bottom, which is kind of odd, I guess. I don't think I ever really noticed that or assembled the sandwich by putting the cheese on the bottom first. But it is just like a classic American, but a very small piece of it. It's just half a slice. That's kind of odd to me, but maybe to not overpower the fish, I guess, which makes sense. But if you're gonna do it, I think just do it, right? I don't think adding half a slice is gonna do anything for anyone. People always hate on seafood and cheese. I don't get the hate. I think it's a perfect pairing for this dish specifically. And we're just gonna be using some good old classic squishy potato rolls. It's very similar size to McDonald's one. I like to mayo the buns before we toast them, just because I think it gives it a really nice golden crust and flavor as well. But I'm just gonna toast these just because I do want it to be hot and squishy, but I don't want it to be crunchy. So I think it'll still be very squishy. The McDonald's one had the cheese on the bottom, so I think I'm gonna do the same thing here. And then once the hot patty goes on top, it'll again keep it warm and gooey and melted versus putting it on top that gets hit with like a layer of tartar sauce. And we are gonna do a full slice. I'm not concerned about this overpowering the flavor of our patty that we have. All right, all our components are ready to go. We're ready to portion up the patties that we have in the freezer and get those breaded and fried up and start assembling. It's very hard now, very easy to work with compared to before, which was very, very tacky. It would have been impossible to bread. I'm thinking I'll portion these into like 10 portions, probably like 2 by 5. So a very basic breading setup here. We have our panko that's very, very coarse that I think will add a really nice crunch to this. I have some cornstarch here. I like cornstarch versus AP typically just because it makes things crisper, it's finer, and it's a Chinese restaurant, so we always have cornstarch around regardless. And then just a couple eggs. So we're gonna go the cake into dry, wet, dry. Now we can go over and get these fried up. I'm just really looking for a nice golden brown, even chattery crust on the outside. All right, it's about 4 minutes. Beautiful golden brown. I think so. We have bun, melted cheese, the hot patty right on top. I think we're gonna hit it with a healthy amount of tartar just to make sure every single bite has nice pickly bites, nice acidity, creaminess, and that's it. I think it's like a very pretty looking sandwich. You got the bun, the cheese peeking out, which I think is sick, the patty peeking out of both sides, which is cool, and then the tartar sauce filling all these nooks and crannies that we created, the crispiness, and then just the bun to finish it off. We'll pack this up in a clamshell box like a traditional Filet-O-Fish, and it's just good to go. A little hefty, it's all right. That's it. Here it is, the Bonnie's fish sandwich, and I'm going in for the taste. So off the bat, it's a little bigger, a little heftier than the Filet-O-Fish. I just really like when proteins kind of stick out of the bun. I think it's fun. You can kind of have a couple bites without the bread. Oh, yeah, super good. Very, very crunchy. And that super coarse panko that we used. The texture of the patty is very fun and kind of springy and bouncy, like a fish cake should be. The tartar sauce is definitely very, very acidic. Tastes very, very Chinese with the ginger scallion condiment flowing through it. Full slice of cheese is definitely needed. The Filet-O-Fish, the patty itself didn't necessarily have much flavor. Like you're really just tasting the tartar sauce when you're eating McDonald's version. This is really good because you get the garlic chives really come through, the ginger really comes through in the patty and in the sauce, which is really nice. Overall, as a complete sandwich, this works, it hits. It reminds me of the Filet-O-Fish, but it's very different as well. Like you can tell they're definitely related, definitely similar builds, but obviously ours is half Chinese and this one's not. What's cool about this is that it's not on the menu, but if you come during these dates, it will be available on our menu at Bonnie's in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I think it's great, but you can pull up and try it for yourself and let me know.